marked by a draconian tax regime and soaring unemployment rates, among other challenges, Uganda's economy continues to accelerate to a near point of a total meltdown. This even as businesses struggle to stay afloat and livelihoods of the ordinary citizens get shattered altogether. Now, on this platform, we are going to discuss and analyze the key determinants of Uganda's economy with the view of exploring solutions to the challenges. And also, we are going to have a big conversation on the taxation regime with a specific emphasis on the recently declared and sustained strike of the traders in downtown Kampala. Viewers, you are most welcome to this program of the Focus on Parliament show on Civic Space TV, brought to you by the Center for Constitutional Governance. My name is Kwagala, your host. I now have the pleasure and the honor to introduce my panelists to you in no particular order. Let me start from just right next to me, Mr. Timothy Chemonges. He's an associate director at the Center for Policy Analysis. Timothy, you're most welcome to the program.
Thank you, Isaac, and good morning to our viewers. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to a very exciting conversations that we're going to have today. But also just to add that we also run the Parliament Watch program, which is a very key and a civic tech platform that monitors Parliament and its work.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Timothy.
Thank you.
Next to Timothy is Miss Winfred Mugambwa. She's a regular on the platform, and she's the founder and executive director at Rights for Her, a human rights organization focused on women empowerment. You are most welcome to the program, Winfred.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Good morning, viewers. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Civic Space for always giving us this opportunity. Like they said, I work with Rights for Uganda, an eco-feminist women-led organization focusing on the intersectionality of environment and climate justice, women's rights, and GBV prevention and SRHR in Uganda. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to be with these gentlemen here.
You're most welcome, Winnie. Last but not least is Mr. Apollo Tusiime. He's a journalist and also the Secretary General for Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. You're most welcome to the program, Apollo. Say hello to the viewers.
Thank you, Isaac. Good morning, our viewers. I bring greetings from Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. And as usual, I have to make this disclaimer that we are not journalists employed by Parliament. We work for private media houses, but it's a group that brings together those journalists to promote professionalism, promote their welfare, and they are happy that you give us this space at Civic Space. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me start with you, Timothy, and let us start with the component of Uganda's tax regime and the tax space in general. So over the course of the last week, we've seen the traders in downtown Kampala and also substantially, by extension, the whole country, launch and sustain a strike protesting what they call a coercive taxation policy of the government. Now, as we understand, of course, taxes are a critical component in as far as obtaining the resources to run the state is concerned, for it is where the monies to extend services to the citizenry is obtained. But on the other hand, you realize that if the taxes are really high, then it has a direct impact on the ability of the government to be able to collect it from the citizens. Now, this seems to be the particular concern for the traders. They contend that they are not able to cope up with the high taxes in as much as they want to contribute to the development of the country. So it begs the question, is the government prioritizing its tax policy in tandem with the needs of the economy? Or is it a matter that maybe the traders do not have really substantial reason to launch and sustain this strike?
So thank you so much. I think that in principle, governments all over the world, some of their major sources of getting income or getting money that facilitates its operation. Taxation is one of those, and which comes out very clearly. The other avenues such as grants and borrowing, and definitely the other avenues where government gets those resources. But also in principle is that no government in the world has achieved development through taxation. It only means that there has to be innovative ways of which a state and the government of the day comes up with very innovative ways so that it leads its people or the country to a place where development has been realized. Two, the traders and what we are seeing in the country today, absolutely they are justified, and that is what in a civilized society people express disgruntlement. And it's just fair that every state, or a sane state for that purpose, should be able to listen to the needs. These are key stakeholders in any country. And if they have concerns, if they have grievances, whether valid or otherwise, according to the state, they ought to be listened. They ought to be conversations really between those the duty bearers and those that are responsible, the different stakeholders. But the other concept largely around taxation is that for those that may know taxation in principle, is that we have a number of principles that govern taxation, and that every state must and should be able to adhere to that. And some of these is that for any taxation, first of all, is that it must be equitable, it must be fair, it must be to the extent that the distribution of the taxation is not concentrated on specific individuals or a specific group of people. It must be spread. And countries must have a very deliberate and a strategic framework where taxation or resource mobilization is clear. And so that guides the country. And so this taxation, first of all, must be very, very fair. Two is that there has to be a component around simplicity to the extent that the stakeholders must be able to appreciate what is happening. You don't just come up and you're imposing taxes, because they're also stakeholders, and therefore they must participate in this process. Three is the other component around transparency, that for a state or for a state primarily or government should be able to, when intending to either increase or introduce a tax, it must be very clear and it must be transparent to the different stakeholders. The other principles, to the extent of effectiveness, broadly speaking, most of these principles they can go as many as possible. But the primary and the core of this is that any tax or any tax regime must be participatory. It must take the interest of those that are responsible, the stakeholders, and most important, it must be fair. Short of that is that you start having situations where those that are supposed to pay taxes start evading. Two, those that are supposed to pay either start find alternative ways of avoiding that. But also, I think that we have a bigger discussion really beyond taxation. Because if you look at some of the challenges that we are facing, the question that we would want an answer for is our problem lack of money, or it's the misuse of it in our current setting? I think it's true that both may actually qualify as an answer to that question, because we have a big problem. One of the biggest challenges that we have in this country is corruption. The IGG recently produced a report, and IGG actually states that we lose up to 10 trillion, 10 trillion of our money to corruption. Now, if you have a country, for example, that has, say, just in this financial year that we are in, our budget was up to 52.7 trillion, Of that, close to around 20, around 27 trillion was going to payment of debt. So you're left with around 25 trillion. That should be the discretionary budget, okay? So the 25 is what the state or Ministry of Finance would refer to as discretion. Unfortunately, in the same discretionary budget, you have key components such as wages, you have salaries, you have pension, you have gratuity, and many of these things, which substantially affects that, that discretionary budget and eats up on the ability of the state to invest and support development in the country. So the ability of the state to do development is largely constrained. Now, back to the discussions around corruption. Imagine losing 10 trillion of your budget towards that direction. It's a big, big, big challenge. Two, I think there's also the bigger conversations around taxation, that while it's true that taxation, we must broaden and ensure that this question of taxation is strengthened, we cannot continue taxing the same people. I am an employee. That the taxes that are being introduced year in, year out are focused to specific individuals or people. Can we broaden that? And I know that that's probably one of the directions that URA is trying to take, to ensure that we broaden the tax base, but also ensure that we strengthen the payment of, because we have so many individuals, both artificial and real individuals, who evade tax, or in one way or another avoid it. So can we be able to strengthen some of those mechanisms so that we have a bigger group of people that can pay tax? I've seen the head of state, and which is rightly so, though it's not realizing a lot, to strengthen the economic capacity of the population, so that you have, you fatten the cow before you slaughter it. Unfortunately, if you have a malnourished cow and expect a lot of milk from it, it becomes a problem. And so really, just to respond to that, I think that the traders are valid to take the action that they are taking, although it is it's having a very big impact on both them as traders, and many of us who would want to access most of these services. I have been wanting to purchase or procure some things, but unfortunately I cannot. Town is under lock. So you cannot access. Even the service providers will tell you, unfortunately, we cannot be able to provide because we are under lock. So it greatly inconveniences the citizens, and that also goes to the extent of the traders themselves. And so I think that government must be, first of all, open to listening to what the citizens are saying. They are key stakeholders, so we must listen to them and understand where they're coming from. If there are valid concerns, definitely they should be able addressed. If there are issues that needs to be clarified, that should. Unfortunately, one of the biggest challenges is that we've since adopted the confrontational approach of governance, where we are looking at each other as, they are after me, he is after me. Can we sit down and engage and discuss? If one of the mechanisms that is being introduced is an issue, where is the problem? Can we be able, because I'd also imagine URA wants to increase its tax base, but also the traders have valid concerns. Is it something that is timely? And so I think definitely there has to be conversation, but broadly speaking, the question of governance has to be introduced, because without clear governance in this country, we shall continue taxing people. We have misuse of these resources, and we've seen some of these discussions recently, where we have a lot of resources being misused by some of the institutions in government, yet the ordinary citizen is suffering. We don't have medicines in hospitals. Our education system is in a pathetic state. Service delivery, our roads are a big mess. And broadly speaking, that we must address the real issues. And as the leadership are working hard to ensure that we collect and increase our tax base, but real issues in these countries must be addressed.
Speaking of engagement and dialogue as a means of resolving this dispute, Winnie, I want to pose the question to you. The traders insist that this tax especially the 18% in terms of VAT, and the system that is being employed by the taxman to collect it, IFRIS, is injudicious. They are opposed to it because they feel that they cannot be able to generate as much revenue to meet the tax and also keep the operations of the business going. But we also understand it is from that cycle, the result of that cycle, that then the traders are able to have a livelihood, but also meet their tax obligations with the government. So I posed the question, is the government being responsible enough, even as we wait for the resolution of the engagement between the traders and the president, in always, imposing these new taxes on the traders, given the harsh economic reality on the ground? Is there any other way it can be done? Because Timothy here is recommending that we should adopt the approach of broadening the tax base instead of deepening it by taxing the same very people and every year heaping on them more taxes.
Thank you so much. I will just add on what Timothy has said. I concur with him. How did we get here? It is the first thing we need to know. The government needs to look at how did we get here. Of course, I also believe that tax system in Uganda has a problem. There is a problem. You would see before the tax was introduced, it goes through a process. And everything, even if it's not taxation, every process at its initial stage, when there is a problem, of course, it again affects the end results. I believe there is a problem from the start of, the person who introduced the tax, the people who pass, and then the implementer. In Uganda, we have different categories. Now it's the Minister of Finance that introduces the tax. And then the Parliament also has to pass. Are they on the same page? First of all, we need to understand whether these people, by the time they get the whole process, are we having these people at the same page to the person who is implementing? I feel there is a gap there, personally, me as me. I feel there is a gap there. That is when at the end, when they reach to the end use of the system, when they want to now to tax the person, the traders, they're like, there is a problem. And there is no way the traders, because even if we broaden, the government tries to broaden, they're saying they're trying to broaden, not just go deep, until people are sensitized very well, until there is a transparency over the process, even the implementation, until the citizens see the value of the money they're paying, we shall still be going through the vicious cycle of the same problems. Like you said in the beginning, the traders are saying it becoming hard to live in Uganda, to sustain our businesses, even ourselves. But remember, these are two persons standing there. The traders on this side who are saying, even when we pay the taxes, we really want to pay the tax. But again, we need also to have money to sustain our businesses, our families, our other. We need to grow as persons. But also, UR is on the other side, which is part of government, and they're saying we are collecting these taxes too. They give reasons, you get it. All sides are looking at growth, growing their basket of money. The other ones are looking at growing their revenue. These ones are also looking at growth. The traders are looking at growth. So they're both at crossroads. Until, like Timothy has said, until government listens to the people, they sit and see where the problem is. If really the traders are saying that they are double taxing us, yes, if big supermarket can get out of business, yes. I personally, my first job I worked when I was just an intern, I first worked in ShopRite. So I had colleagues there. I was there like 4 months. Was it 4 or 3 months? But they could tell you, because I asked one of my colleagues, why did you leave business? And one of the things they are saying, they were also double taxed. If foreigners could see that there was a problem there and they could get out of business, Ugandans are not also dense that they can't see that there is a problem. Yes? Was it yesterday when Honorable, is it Muhammad? Yeah, Muhammad Inseko was on the floor. And he was questioning his fellow legislators that, you know, we are the problem. We are blaming URA. But remember, we are part of the process. You get it? That is where I'm saying the problem must, personally, I feel the problem started from that process. First of all, there's a tendency now in Uganda, I would call it now a fashion of just passing bills. When the taxation bill came in Parliament, it was around, was it March?
The amendment?
Yes, it was around March. But remember, it had to take effect in July. You get it? Those are how many months?
Yeah, 4.
About 3, 4.
3, 4.
No, there were 3. There were 3. The passing was in July, but it took effect in June. You get it? These are 3 months. In 3 months, the Minister of Finance comes and tables. Yes?
The tax bill.
The tax bill. For them, okay, they are learned. They are financial people. They know everything. But they have brought this bill to the Parliament full of different people. Yes? And remember, it's not the only bill that is going to be tabled. How much time is given to the legislators to understand this bill, to even give in their view, their valid views? It means that they are going to give raw views. They are going to pass a bill to me which is law. In 3 months, something that concerns monies, something that concerns other people, that is going to incorporate other persons. 3 months, to me, I feel it's something small. That is where we are going wrong. We are trying to give birth to things that are still raw. We are trying to give birth to babies who are premature. They are the laws that the countries are giving birth to. These are the laws that the legislators in parliaments are trying to give birth. And that is why I think some of them are now going back to themselves and they're like, by the way, we passed this because we took the thinking of the Minister of Finance. Yes, Minister of Finance brought us something. We only looked at the good side of it because the country needs revenue. And yes, the country needs revenue, and taxation is where one of the places they have to get the revenue. So when for them, they looked at the positive side. They never had enough time. Of course, because for them, they feel they know, they might feel that is no, the time was enough. But to me, I feel it wasn't enough as a citizen. Now, how much time was given to the traders? URA, how much time has URA and the government invested into trying to make the traders understand? If really, I'll still say, if traders are saying that it is double taxation, it is government to come out and clearly show that, no, like how they are saying, we are not double taxing you. In fact, this system is all about tracking your what? Tracking the what? Your revenue. Let them come out clearly. It's all about where my colleague talked about transparency. Yes? You can't be transparent when you feel for your point is valid and you're not ready to listen to the other party. If government, yes, now it's good they are ready to listen and today they're having a meeting, but that is where I first asked the question, how did we get here? We got here, traders got here, because government wasn't listening. They weren't listening. So until government gets back in the seat of knowing, like caring for the citizen, trying to listen to the citizen. My colleague mentioned fairness. Any policy that is not fair, where some people are favored and other persons are not favored, will end up where we are. In our country, I feel we need comprehensive, like how my colleague said, we need comprehensive economic reforms all over the world. Yes, all over the country, I mean. We need also, many policies need reform. That is why we are going back now. They pass, remember this whole thing, takes taxpayers' money. That is where the country runs out of money. And another thing, we are having a problem with the traders. And again, we are in a country, yes, the government is pushing the traders to pay the tax, but remember we are in a country where our debt is high. You get it? So to me, I feel like how you would have your garden putting on a lot of flowers and they're flourishing and they're looking good. Government was in a state where we were having very many donors. We could borrow the way we could want. The government could borrow the way they could want. People could misuse money the way they want, and no one would be held accountable. And now we are stuck. We've come to a point where we are stuck. It's like a man beating his wife, and then the wife is dying in the house, and the man brings like 4 cylinders, and they want to put on the wife oxygen to breathe there, and then because the wife is dying. Truth is, our economy is almost at the stage of dying because it's collapsing. And now government wants to just put the cylinder on the traders.
To jumpstart it.
But through overtaxing people. And they are not ready. Because now, for them, they are not ready now. The debt is high, and we need to service it. You get it? How are we going to service the debt when other people are pulling out? When like World Bank is not ready to finance the new project? When other sources where we've been getting money, America is saying that we are not giving you more money, and then our president is saying that we can get the money. You can't just, even when the baby is walking, starting to walk, they take steps. You get it? But our government is trying to say we can just jump from where we have been to now just grow from taxation. It is wrong. This is not magic. We are not in a theater. The way the president and the parliament are trying to run this country, it's like we are in a theater. Things can happen. As long as someone can dance, someone can shake their body. No, everything can go on. So our problem is not even the tax, because we need it to run the country. All countries have tax. You get it? We have our colleagues or relatives abroad. They'll tell you about the tax they pay there. You get it? But the problems here is that people, starting from the Ministry of Finance, then the one in the middle there, the Parliament. Now that one is the rotten one. So that when you have two oranges, the Ministry of Finance, which understands to some extent what they're doing, and they propose something, and then there is URA on this side, which really understands what they are going to implement. Yes, because I believe that. And then in the middle here, we have this rotten mango. Yes, and we bring this mango near, and this mango near this rotten mango. What do you expect?
It's going to double infect the other two.
Because now, from where the process started, for them they came with their agenda. It is now these middle persons to argue it out whether it is really fair enough. They needed to see whether if we just pass this law, or even if we just pass the introduction of a system. Well, they needed to evaluate, but the time that Parliament takes, they just. Now these days, the way they are passing, there is no enough evaluation. Yes? And remember, these are very many people. So the tax has no problem as long as the end user or even the traders really understand that, okay, this tax is here, and we are seeing what it's going to do, and we've seen what it has done. And yes, they're saying they're not double taxing it, and they really verify. And again, because we need the taxes, but the problem is with the process and the people within the process. That is the first person, the one who introduced the policy, the one who passed the policy, and again, the one who is implementing. There is a problem. And then that is now round up the government, which means the system around is the problem. The top, that is where the problem is. So until the top persons from the president, they see that you people,
we are becoming a problem, and we are a problem, and we need to work on the problem. And not see that we must force the people to pay the taxes. We don't see any problem with us. We are going to still be in that vicious cycle of having problems, having a taxation system which is dead, because it's dead, yes? And the country is going to still, we are going to just more collapse, because we're already at that stage. We are in the ICU, is it where the ICU are those things? That is where the country is, and the president for him is, he feels sorted, either because of the age, either like anywhere, like in any other system, until someone says that truth is, this food on the plate I've overeaten, and now I'm over breathing, I need to stop here. The president needs to see that it is time either to give someone else like any other human being.
You are recommending new engineering in the leadership of
It
the
could
country.
be there, because when you don't also as a head start seeing a problem until traders close up shops, and that is when you sit with them. It means that now you're because when you age, when you're starting to age, there are times when your energies go down. And when your energies go down, which means you can't run the same race you used to run, which means you either need more support or you need to give the ball to someone. So it is him to choose.
Thank you,
Either
Winnie.
to get better support, not even because he has support, which has a problem, which means he has to get better support, or hand over the ball to someone else.
Thank you. I'll come back to you. Apollo,
Yes, sir.
I want us to examine the country's tax space vis-a-vis the processes involved, with a particular focus and emphasis on the Parliament, because from the discussion it is emerging that Parliament is such a fundamental stakeholder in the process, in that it has the constitutional responsibility to levy taxes. No taxes can be imposed on either the natural persons or the artificial persons without the express consent and approval of the Parliament. So the question is, given the apathy, the growing apathy of the population to meet their tax responsibilities with the state, and knowing that Parliament is the direct voice of representation for the citizens, has Parliament abdicated its responsibility? Are they not doing proper evaluation of these tax proposals, so that at the end of the day, they pass something which the citizens are able to meet, so that there is a match in the expectation between the taxman and then the citizens who are expecting services? Because some of the reason as to why the apathy is growing is that the citizens contend there is no proportionality. What they pay does not reflect in the services that are being advanced to them.
Thank you so much, and I must appreciate my colleagues here. They have raised very fundamental issues, especially about the unfairness in our tax regime, in enforcement, even in enactment of these tax bills that introduce either changes or new taxes. I will disagree with them on one thing or another, especially the idea that the policymakers do not know what they are doing. I believe that the people who are in government are very aware of what they are doing, and it is mainly because they understand that it is what benefits them. For instance, you look at who is paying taxes. It is me, who is an employee somewhere, who must pay payee. It's somebody who earns every income and he'll pay income tax, and they are the businessmen, the traders now who are protesting these harsh tax regime. For them, the policymakers, their concerns have been sorted. When we elect members of parliament, they are assured of a monthly salary, a very fat salary. They are very assured of means of transport. We buy them vehicles, and very huge vehicles. We give them fuel allowance. They have medical insurance. You understand what I'm saying? So all these are sponsored by we who actually wake up every morning and we go either to Chikubo or we go to our workplaces and do what? And toil to pay taxes. For them, yes, they are taxed, but how are they taxed? They are taxed even only from the earnings they get from the consolidated fund. You understand what I'm saying? We have a president whom we give everything. In America, the president earns $400,000 US a year. That is something like $330. But the president of America buys grocery from his own pocket. He does not buy food that feeds his family from taxpayers' money. The president of America, if he hosts visitors, private visitors, he picks from his pocket. That's what I'm saying, that the policymakers do not feel the pinch that the traders who are rioting now, who are protesting now, they feel. So they do not care. They are beneficiaries of this harsh tax regime. So even if a new tax, or a new tax is proposed and it is brought to Parliament, do they actually? Let me tell you one thing, and Timo will testify to this. We have reached a level where there is collusion between the executive and the legislature. That when there is, they want to pass a supplementary budget, possibly people will get some kickback to pass a supplementary. We have written all these stories. You have seen it all over. So there is collusion to get funds available to support opulence lifestyles of some few individuals in this country. So that's what I'm saying. I go back to what I told you, that what we see is deliberate. It's not by accident. And it's not because they don't know what they are doing. They are beneficiaries of this tax regime. Now, why on earth really should we be paying all this money this is a group of people really get a lot of money? I'm talking about the cost of public administration. It is too high, this country. We pay a lot. I mean, I remember a few months ago, a member of parliament stood up in parliament and mentioned that parliament, actually he was quoting Daily Monitor, that parliament spends 2 billion every sitting, every day. They spend 2 billion. That's a lot of money. Why should we have that huge budget for parliament? And every time there are other things coming up. Right now, actually this week, it came out clear that they are actually increasing the budget for parliament.
They requested.
Yes, but it's not only parliament. The executive also is a bloated. There is a bloated cabinet, and they have all the resources. They have all the monies to spend. So the agitation that you're seeing from traders has not started today. It has been there for a long time. Only that this is a spark. The IFRIS is a spark tickled traders to come out and raise their voice at this point. So it's a duplicity of issues that has brought this situation where we are in today. One, I've talked about the high cost of public administration. You have talked about a small tax base, a narrow tax base. Very few people have to shoulder all that what I've talked about. We are like 4 million taxpayers on URA's radar, but every time new taxes are being introduced, new taxes are being introduced on the same people again. So I don't know why they have not brought or introduced policies to broaden the tax base. I don't know, because we are in a country where we have people who do not pay taxes. For instance, people who the people who sell cattle, who breed cattle, the cattle they just sell and there is no tax on cattle. People who sell who plant, who did in matoke, they sell matoke, they don't pay taxes. We have very people, and then we have other people in government. Okay, not only in government, who may have attachment to government or high big officials in government, who will always evade tax, who don't want to pay tax because
on account of their proximity power.
Yes, they don't want to pay taxes. So it's here in a country, you have a small, a narrow tax base. You have people who are in business who don't want to pay taxes. You have so-called investors who enjoy waivers, tax waivers. I remember it actually came up in committees of parliament last year. 7 trillion in
tax waivers?
No, yes, in people who do not, who should be paying tax, but they do not pay taxes.
Officials have been exempted by the state not to pay.
Yes. So we have many loopholes to plug our economy, but I think it looks like we do not care. We don't want to do it. Maybe because we still have sources to get this money. Because remember, we borrow. We still have sources to borrow. Actually, let me disagree with my sister here, who was saying that even the funders are withdrawing. No, they will not withdraw. They will keep giving us money until we say, until we feel we are choked and we can no longer do our own debt. That is when maybe harsh funders like China will come and start confiscating our public properties. They will not stop giving us money. Let me tell you, even the World Bank will keep funding these projects. Mark that. They will keep giving us, because for them, they want what they only want is the assurance that at one point you will pay. You are ready to pay. You commit yourself to pay. And you see, we have like oil, so they know somewhere, somehow, they will recover that money. So it now leaves a taxpayer at the mercy of these people who are beneficiaries of the tax, until we all say no, we cannot. And let me tell you, it's good that these traders have raised their voice, have really demonstrated solidarity. You cannot believe it. A trader here or a business person here in Uganda, where we know that many people live from hand to mouth, when they do not come to open shop, they may not get what to eat. But they sacrificed for now. It is coming to the 4th day. They have closed shop for 4 days. That is an rare show of solidarity.
It's unprecedented.
They have decided. So it even shows you that they have had this pain for very long. So let's now possibly give the policymakers a benefit of doubt that they are going now to realize that the people whom they have been squeezing have realized that the pain they are going through. It has been well illustrated by Dr. Spear Sentongo in his cartoon. And I've been keen to follow his cartoons on taxation. The other, last year, he released the cartoon of a cow being milked, but you could see it malnourished. But the Minister for Finance, Honorable Mateka Kasaija, was busy milking it. Okay? That was last year, and it was standing on its 4 legs. But this time he has released another cartoon. Now the malnourished cow is sick and it is lying on the ground, but Honorable Mateka is continuing to milk it. That is the true illustration of the taxation policy in this country. The government must be also thinking of how they can help the business community to maneuver and because at the end of the day, these are the people who support the economy. If you keep, milking them and not helping them to grow. For instance, it is here in Uganda where somebody opens up a business and the next day, local authorities are knocking, demanding for license, that bring a license for this business. Why can't you give, if you have a policy that gives foreign investors a tax waiver for 5 years or 15 years, why can't you think of these people who have these small businesses also to first run their businesses for at least 2 years or 1 year, and then you come for levies, either tax or what? So it is time for, like my colleague said, it is time to think and to sit and come up with a dialogue and a conversation on how the two sides, the two parties can benefit and survive. Because if the business community collapses, then where will government now get money to support their opulent lifestyle they want to live? Okay, why can't we also come up with policies that are fair for both of us? If I'm giving you my tax, I'm paying it. I'm a very committed taxpayer. Then I want to see a benefit that comes from my tax. You get what I'm saying? If a business person is in Chikubu and he that's where his shop is, and their stores, all the warehouses are in Mukono or Nakawa, but let them have smooth roads to transport their goods from their warehouses to their shops in Chikubu, where they do what? Where they sell them. But look around Kampala and tell me which road now is really smooth to give that benefit of doubt that yes, our taxes are doing what? Are helping us. So it is time to sit and dialogue on how we can make the tax regime fair, and it starts with how the resources are being utilized, especially by the elite class who have the liberty to access these taxes.
Thank you.
Isaac, before you proceed, there's something I say that you have marked around the World Bank. Yes, they will come and give us money. But we have to accept right now, at this time when we are talking about taxation, we have to accept that there are even some loans they have put on hold for the new projects. What is going to come in future? Well and good. We know for them, because first of all, Uganda is a member state. You get it? When they borrow, they have to pay. But right now, there are restrictions, and then there are some projects that have been put on hold and then there are those that are running that were new. You get it? Yes, in future they can come back and give the money, but right now, even the president clearly says, even if you don't give us your money, we shall get money. We have money here. You get it? So my comment around World Bank was on the current status, because we are talking about the current status in the country. So yes, World Bank, and I will not change it, World Bank has put a hold, and it has really, on some, it is in effect.
But Isaac, what we should also not forget,
in a minute, because we are going for a break. Yeah,
yes, in a minute, is that our country is not so poor that we cannot sustain our budgets. It is only because of our extravagant expenditure of the funds and resources we have. If we cut on the cost of public expenditure, if we tame the appetite of our leaders to live a very opulent lifestyle at the expense of taxpayers, if we utilize our resources, few resources, reasonably, we can sustain ourselves. But because there is a lot of corruption, everyone wants to live large when actually the economy is struggling. That is exactly why our country is, and that is why the public debt is growing year after year. And like I said, I will insist these people will keep giving us money. The lenders will keep giving us money until we feel it's enough and we come back to the conversation of how we can live within our means.
Focus on Parliament now takes a short break. When we return, we broaden the discussion to explore the various possible solutions to the conundrum of the Ugandan economy and how best we can jumpstart it back to life. See you shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back. This is the Focus on Parliament show on Civic Space TV. In this segment, we discuss the possible solutions and mechanisms that can be employed to revive back to life Uganda's economy. Let me start with you, Timothy. Once again, recently the Bank of Uganda has commissioned a study whose findings I find particularly interesting. I'll cite out just two. The first being is the revelation that 70% of Ugandans are surviving on loans, on borrowing. Essentially, the implication is they are living beyond their means. Now, the second one is that 90% of Ugandans are vulnerable to economic shocks. So that means if any situation were to emerge that has a serious impact or magnitude, a person perhaps wouldn't be in a position to respond if the need is financial. So really the conclusion we can distill out of this is that we are swiftly moving towards a downward spiral trajectory as a country in terms of our economy. So in terms of proposing solutions, what have you got to say, bearing in mind that, of course, it's a big multi-agent stakeholder sort of engagement, because there is government, there is the business community on the other hand, then there are agencies of government that implement some of these policies like the URA. What can be practically done to ensure that to resuscitate the economy back to life?
So thank you so much for that, Trudy. I agree with the findings, but I a bit disagree with your interpretation, specifically on the borrowing, which may not be very accurate. So borrowing in principle is good, economically speaking. It is on the expenditure of how this borrowed money is spent. And I think that applies both at the country level and even at an individual level. Because if you do not have resources available straight to you, then you start exploring all the other available avenues where you can get these resources, acquire the resources, retain the resource, and multiply, which are some of the key principles in economics, where you say that as an individual, I would work extremely hard to get the resource. After getting it, I find mechanisms and ways of retaining this money, and then in order to have or to get to the next level is to see how do I multiply this money. And of course, it's true. So, but also on the perspective of where you have a bigger percentage of Ugandans living literally hand to mouth, it speaks to the social welfare structure of the country. We are really vulnerable to a state where, in case of any unforeseen circumstances, we are likely to be thrown in a very bad situation. And by the way, while that actually may be the true reflection of the citizens, it's where the state is today. The state is in a very sorry state, where part of the mechanisms and some of the systems you see government trying to put in place or trying to introduce taxes here and there, it's in the economy is not in its best place. The governance of the state and government, broadly speaking, has a lot indesirable. But I think the crust of the matter lies on the governance of the country. If many of the challenges that have been highlighted are a product of governance. If you had proper leadership, if you had leadership that has interests of its citizens at heart, if you had a solution-oriented government or the state, definitely things would probably even take in the right direction. But unfortunately, that is not happening. And so I think, what do we need to do really moving forward, specifically where we find ourselves today? I think there are a number of things that we can do. First, on the front of the leadership, which I think that is, for me, it's the start and the end of most of our challenges. Because if you look at the cost of public administration, if you look at the frugality, if you look at yesterday, the other day, a supplementary budget was being introduced in Parliament, and if you look at the allocations, if you look at some of the beneficiaries of this supplementary budget, they are the usual suspects in terms of how they are using this money. In terms of the expenditure, you have State House, you have most of these agencies that in any supplementary budget they will be at the fore. So it speaks to the component of the cost of public administration, the questions of accountability and transparency. The desire of leadership that has the interests of its citizens at heart. To push for that. There are some of those components that are still lacking. But if we go a bit into specificities, I think that government primarily is an enabler, So an enabler to the perspective of providing an environment where businesses can flourish, where entities can operate smoothly, and it can enforce where there are really shortcomings that needs to be, government steps in. So primarily, government is supposed to be an enabler, and so that goes to the extent of some of the challenges that you're looking at how the country is operated. Corruption is the big challenge, one of those that we are facing, and I think if we address that at the state level, that's something that we can go a long way to looking into this. We need to stimulate the economy, really. The economy needs to be stimulated. But also I must credit government. So it's after post-COVID. This is the first time I think taxes are being introduced, if I'm wrong. Additional taxes post-COVID.
No, in the last year there were new taxes.
I see.
New taxes that were introduced.
Okay, so maybe just that's for clarity. But I think also the state has been a bit slow to introduce new taxes. There have been taxes maybe introduced in one way or another, because now I remember the taxes on diapers and the likes. But government has been a bit also very considerate in terms of introducing new taxes post-COVID. It's now when they are picking up on that direction. But I think principally is to emphasize that government or the state cannot develop on the grounds of taxation You can't tax your citizenry with the objective of getting to the development. We have to ensure that we take advantage of the available resources, enhance the question of transparency. We address questions of the public administration, the cost of most of these things. The private sector, by the way, in serious countries, the private sector is stronger than the government. And you'll have they are the drivers. And you'll have citizens, you'll have private individuals desiring or going towards the private sector, and here it's the opposite. You have very many people running to be employed to government as opposed to the private sector, which shouldn't be the case, because the private sector it's where resources can multiply, and can be a very fertile ground to ensure that employment is increased, the economy is strengthened, and even the question of foreign engagement in terms of exchanges and some of these products of import and exports can be stabilized. And so I think that among those, but primarily is to say that we need a clear governance system in this country to strengthen that. I don't mind a president who is in advanced age. If we have clear systems and institutions that are operational in this country, even if we had a president of 90 years of age, we can move. But if both are not working, if the system or the institutions are not working, and you also have the individual at the helm also either does not have a very firm or very clear way of steering the ship, it becomes a big problem, and it's likely to find where we are at now. Yeah.
Thank you, Timothy. Let me go to Winfred. Winfred, Timothy stresses the important point that we need responsible governance at all levels in the country in order for us to be able to overturn the current grim reality of our economy. But when he said it, it triggered a thought in my mind. The irony is, currently, the president is the head of state and the head of government. He serves in dual capacity. In strict constitutional terms, he's actually the Minister of Finance and the chief planner and the chief planner of the country, for that matter. So you could say, for all practical purposes, that the tax proposals that are being introduced are emanating directly from him, or by implication, he has consented to them. So that's the irony I want us to investigate now. Given the current crisis in the country, we understand today there has been an arrangement for an interface between the traders and the president. Do you really see a way forward out of this? Do you anticipate a positive development? Can he rescind some of those taxes, or, turn back on his word, given that essentially is the chief finance plan of the state?
One thing I've personally seen in our president, he always, even if he would see it's positive, he would first see what is in there for him. He can't make a decision that doesn't favor him. Personally, where I've seen, though I've tried to evaluate the different things he has done, he always looking into everything. As we are going out, what am I taking out? Is it heavy for me as a person? And I personally don't have a problem with the age of a person. We can have even a president of 100 years. But even in other states, we've seen presidents who are even above the age of our president. But even at the work we always be at, someone needs to take some rest. You get it? Sometimes when you overdo something and you're not creative enough, or even that space is not even, it either
you become sick in the space, so that now the energies you give out are not good, meaning that what comes out of you because you have overstayed in a place, they are no longer constructive. So when someone comes out, like how I say that maybe the president needs to take some rest, not because of the age, because of the time he has overstayed in power, not because of the age, but the time. Sometimes the dancing becomes boring because you can no longer change the strokes. Even when you change the strokes, you're just breaking your bones.
Are you admitting that you're bored?
You're not bored. No, what I'm trying to say, if we go into those terms, the way he's implementing things, he's stagnant. Things are stagnant. That is where we are, and not because of his age. He has maybe there is that time when something you can no longer give service to something because of many factors. And I would say, like how you're saying that, how you also have your, like you've given your view. First of all, when Parliament passes a bill, it is the president he has to sign. So he's also part of the process. He has always been
But
part of
even before coming to finance, it starts from the executive in cabinet. Proposals come from the cabinet.
They are the originators.
Cabinet, yes. Then that business goes to Minister of Finance and Minister of Tables there.
So we are trying to play games. He's trying to play games, and maybe to just still buy trust. Like in my first submission where I asked the question, where was he until the stage where we are now? He sees everything going on. He knows everything going on. Only that now the traders have stood on their ground and they're like, we are not opening. That is how he's now agreeing to sit with them and they have a talk. Will it come out positive? I would feel it will be a win-win situation. He can't afford to lose. President Museveni can't afford to lose. Like how my colleague told you, they are feeding on this. They are not ready to read. If really President Museveni cared for this nation, if he cared for the citizens, he would even just start from his expense. It is abnormal. He would have felt it that, you know what, I am being abnormal to this community, to this country I am ruling, and let me start from where I am. Let me start from cutting the expenses of State House without even, before even now we are going to start, now this is a president who is feeling for the country. Before even going into, that is now where the problem of governance comes in. If for him he can't feel that just around the State House, where just around my expenditure, me as a president, has a problem. And he only says that, let's go to the people. They have interest in this. When we, like where we say that, where we submitted, I remember we submitted it both that maybe these people don't know what they are doing. Yes, we know they know. But it was a maybe. We know that they know what they are doing. They know they are trying to squeeze people so that they can still feed their stomach. It's like when someone has worms in their stomach. That is how they are. They need to deworm themselves. And it's them to deworm, to work on their appetite. No one else is going to do it. There's a problem with governance. There is a problem. You can look at how many districts do we have now. Because when we say, by the way, I disagree with people who say that our country can sustain itself. Yes, it can, but what is the history of borrowing? Did it start on Museveni? Did we start borrowing? Did the country start borrowing on Museveni's regime? When we say that, no, in case if we do away with, is it Uganda the only country which is borrowing? Is countries like US, those big nations, aren't they borrowing? Borrowing is necessary, like how he has told you. I worked in banking for some very good years, and I can testify and say that very many people here we see in our country who are big people having big businesses, and very many rich people started small, on small loans. Their loans started growing. But the problem comes in planning. You're getting this loan for what? Are you just having a vicious cycle? Because now Uganda is just having a vicious cycle, and they're like, we have been into sustain, we only can sustain into just only borrowing. But people who have borrowed, they plan very well their expenditures. They plan very well their investments. Because when you're borrowing, you have to be sensitive around investment. Our leaders are not sensitive around investment. They are only sensitive around eating. Am I eating enough? If I'm not eating enough, then that is not working for me. That is where the problem is. Now you look at how much money we put in. How many districts do we have? I think the president got excited somewhere and he was like, yes, I have done it well. And in reality, he did it well. And at that moment when he had done it well, instead of looking at how can I now sustain what I've done well, it started now bringing in very many, we have very many districts, very many town councils. Last time I was working on something in our district, and now they were telling me, no, here we divide the RDC, the Disolsimaya, there are how many? Kwagala, the structure is scattered all over. And those people have to be paid. And then most of the people I believe are paid on salaries are from loans. How can you plan to be borrowing and putting money on something that is not going to benefit? Most of the higher percentage is not giving back to you or benefit the economy. So governance is our problem, and until we work on it, until the government, the president still looks into, because he can't be the one doing around all that. So who is, if I may ask, who is there to question the president? That, please, Mr. President, you're heading the cabinet, you're heading the like how you stated all of them there. And also now you add on back of Uganda. Who is there to really openly speak to him without fear and caution him about his decision in this cabinet? No one. Because they would have told him, you can't be the one holding the power of all those, because now there would be a conflict of interest. He makes the decisions at the beginning, like how he has told you, before a finance starts, and then he has to be the end person to sign on it. And again, he's the one going to benefit. There is a problem. And I'll still go back and say, he's the problem of the country. And again now, where I also say that the parliament is our problem, also another rotten system. As voters, we vote them thinking that they'll be seated there in the parliament and they'll start questioning or even help us represent us in our interest as citizens, because we feel they're also elected by citizens. But when they get there, they also just become rotten. They also think about just eating.
They are also beneficiaries of the system.
So how can they question? That is why I'm saying that who is there to question, yet they're also benefiting. They're also, now we are just having a basket.
You have entirely rotten tomatoes in the basket.
In the same basket. Who are just thinking about themselves. Who are just thinking about feeling themselves. And You know, those days when they were talking about the corruption in Parliament, I love my representative so much, Mr. Mugambwa. And the other time I was telling my colleague, if also my man could also
Partake.
I can't say partake because I did, but can support. And you know, the way he was arguing out, it was like, you know, someone not committing, like, you know, you people leave us to eat alone, eh? Leave us to eat because it's now our session. But he was silenced. So who is now there to talk? This meeting is not going to solve anything. It is going to massage the situation. Traders are going to be massaged, they are going to be romanced, and they are going to be lied to, and they are going to go back on Monday. We shall see, or even tomorrow, we shall see those businesses open. This is not the first time traders are rioting. It's not the first time. Come next year or come this end this year, we shall see them come up and say, our issues were not worked on, because right now they are going to squeeze them, they are going to enjoy that dance, and they will come out of that meeting when they are convinced. President Museveni is good at that. He has done that. We have seen him do that. And that is the game he's been playing until. So this meeting is not going to solve anything. But for them, they just now until for them they sit and say, you know what, you people, we are the problem and we admit, and they just beat in their chest like this. Do you know what, you people? We have been a problem to this country. I may not say that they should go away, because even those ones who might come might be also a problem again. It is them now to say, okay, you people, we have done a problem. We have been very unfair to this nation. We are now ready. They don't even have to come out and tell us citizens that, you know what, we are your own problem. But now let them work on the system. They know where the problem is. Let them touch where they've been touching to it. And then let them now, because they just touched a button and they lose it. To me, I feel that is just now, I'm just illustrating. Let them go back to that button and now tighten the button and just stop fooling us. Because citizens, we shall be talking. We shall only do the talking. We shall be
if you will be allowed to talk.
If, by the way, if you will be allowed to talk. And if not, they can even leave you to talk if they will also allow to listen. Because there is talking, allowing you to talk, and they listen, and they take in what you've talked. That is why I'm saying they have the button. Let them go and touch, because loans have not started on President Museveni's regime. Having fake investments have started on President Museveni's regime. Roads, they found good roads. They found hospitals. They found infrastructures, which means having rotten investments have started on this regime. Loans have not started on this regime. So let them go back on the button and feel for the nation. Yes, it is them, they are the problem. It is them to fix the problem. Citizens will talk, but not until they feel that now it's the time. Because they have an agenda. I feel that them not feeling, working on the problem, finding sustainable solutions to the problem, they have a reason why. And not until they get an answer to that why. Of recent, I've even had, it is a speaker who started it, and now other people are adapting it. That this one is like the God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That is stupidity. You can't start when we are having problems in the country, and now you're talking about God the Father, God the Son. Of who? Museveni is not God, and he's not the Father, he's not the Spirit of this country. No. He's a president like any other president who came in, like the Amins, like the Obotes, who is here and who will go. We don't know when he's going. We don't know how he's going. He might even die, and we bury him. He might not die and he just leaves power. He might be overtaken, we don't know. But he's just like any other president. But when we have people around him just praising him, they are just becoming we are just having just a bandwagon of, I wouldn't use the word idiots around each other, and then they are fueling stupidity in the country. But that is it. They are our problem. So let them sort the problem, and let them go and fix the button.
Mr. Apollo, in terms of proposing solutions, firstly, I want to ask the question, given the interface that is proceeding between the traders and the president, do you foresee any positive development? But secondly, and related to the first question, now that we are hopeful, the president is quite clear aware of the plight of the traders, but also by extension, the problems afflicting the whole economy as a country. Is it at this point that we expect should be able to initiate certain reforms aimed at resuscitating or turbocharging the economy so that we have inclusive development? Then thirdly, is he really the right person to do that, given that, as Winnie here forcefully contends, given the longevity that he's had in power, can he still achieve an economic turnaround for the country?
On the engagements that are going on between traders and the government, I am certain they may not achieve much because, like we said, there is on one side people who are benefiting, and there is on the other side people who are providing. So now the provider is not so comfortable with how the revenues are being utilized. But of course, I think it should be in the interest of our country to have the leaders acknowledge that when a time comes and this person who is providing is now totally unable to provide, then it goes back to them. They will not have anything to do what? To use to sustain their lifestyles. So I think from these engagements, like my sister said, that there will be the traders
Can they
will
forge
be,
middle ground? Is it a win-win or?
It can't be a win-win.
Or they will be manipulated?
It can't be a win-win because we have a system that is predatory, that is parasitic, that believes in sucking the animal until it collapses and it dies. That is the system that
so
we
it's
have.
an exercise in futility after all.
The people in government are not ready to change. Let me tell you, they are not ready to change. For instance, how many times have we pointed out that the cost of public administration is a problem? How many times have we talked about reducing the size of parliament? How many times have we talked about reducing the size of cabinet and these avenues where taxpayer monies go? But nobody is listening because I think I have to come to realize that we Ugandans have been taken for a ride, and they have understood that we cannot do anything. The people who are in power are lucky, and they know it. They are lucky that we have a docile population that cannot do anything, and they have over time learned the art of handling any situation, whether hostile or what. For instance, even if the traders decide to close shops for 2 weeks, they know that it will come a point when they will find themselves at a vulnerable situation where they cannot go any longer sustain this strike. Actually, today I passed through the town. Some shops have started opening because, like I told you, we are a citizen that live this hand-to-mouth lifestyle. They know that at the end of the month, the landlords will come for rent. They know that they have mouths to feed back. They cannot close shops for more than a week, I'm telling you. So the policymakers know it, and they will always capitalize on that one to sustain their capitalistic and parasitic and predatory system. And actually, like I said, that they have mastered the art of sustaining this system. They have the military on their side. They know that if you move away from this one, if this strike moves to another level, they will quell it, and they are ready to crush whoever takes an extreme measure other than closing the shops. And we have this, I will call it, I don't want to call it a challenge, but it is indeed a problem. In Uganda, a person will survive because we have food, and actually that's what helps us during the COVID pandemic. People will somehow manage to get food to eat. That is why in 2011, when the Arab Spring was sweeping across North Africa, it did not come this side in sub-Saharan Africa. Because for the case of the Arab Africa, they cannot get food to the table if they don't work. So they will do everything. But here, the people will go back and find something to eat and try to sustain their failing businesses somehow, hoping that things may get better in the future. But that in itself is also a challenge, that there is always a breaking point. There is a time when people will say, enough is enough.
Apollo, quickly, can the president institute reforms to turbocharge the economy, to bring it back to life?
Has the president been the president for 5-6 years? He has been in power for more than 38 years. So are you saying he has not been implementing his strategies to revive the economy? The thing is, during those 38, 39 years, he has introduced some strategies, but they have failed. So I don't think there is any difference, anything new that will be introduced to revive the what? To revive the economy. The Ntandikwa, you know the story of Ntandikwa, you know the story of PAP, Poverty Alleviation Program, you know the story now of NADS and Myoga and what? It is the same thing. So it is good to intervene. I don't see anything new that can revive this system. Maybe if Ugandans reach to that breaking point, what I told you, and they say enough is enough, we cannot have members of parliament whom we have to buy cars, fuel them, do everything. Why the hell should we have a member of parliament who can buy him or herself a car? Why? Why should we have people who we babysit and give everything in a struggling economy? We should come back to our senses. We should understand that this system is predatory, is parasitic. That is why maybe what gives me hope is that now the traders have realized that this system is not actually hurting the politicians who have been speaking about it. It is also hurting us. Now they are coming to what? To realize it. And until all Ugandans realize that, or a good section of Ugandans realize that we are in a wrong system and we demand that the system must change, that is when things will change.
Thank you, Apple. I'm going to ask you to convey your closing remarks to the audience.
Viewers, we thank you so much for giving us the audience. I must thank Civic Space Management for the opportunity. But I also appeal to Ugandans that this is our country. We have it's upon us to come out and salvage it from where it is. And to our leaders, you need to understand that it is our country. You are the stewards. You have been given a role to manage us, but it is our country. Think about us. Don't think about yourselves.
Thank you, sir. Winfred, your closing remarks on the program.
Thank you so much. And also, again, thank Civic Space. And to the viewers, thank you for listening. Thank you so much for listening in. When I'm concluding, I'll tell government that for us to enhance job creation, which is a very big problem, taxation that we've been talking about, debt management, which is a very big problem, health problem, education. There is need to have comprehensive policy reforms and economic reforms for the country to sustainably grow and develop. And I'll also tell them, starting from the executive head, because when you speak, others will listen. Start feeling for your people. If you're really the president who was elected, please feel for us. And the people we elected in Parliament, please, you lied to us. And you've lived enough with the lie. Please also feel for us and for the citizen. It's not the last. We can't give up on our country. We are not all going to go to exile. It is us to save us. No one is going to come outside to save ourselves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Winfred. Yes, Mr. Timothy Chemonges.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Civic Space. Thank you, colleagues, for the show. Definitely, for me, is to close on a very positive note. That not all is lost. There are better days ahead. The option for us as countrymen and women, the only option is to save this country. It's the only country that we have. And we have to work extremely hard to protect, to ensure that we work best to have a better country. The leadership is to continue demanding for accountability from them. It may not be immediate, it may be progressive. For them to be responsive to the needs of the citizens. And definitely this being a focus on Parliament program, which is also meaning that Parliament holds a very core position in our society, but also in our governance system, is to appreciate that Parliament has very clear roles that are mandated or they are charged with in our constitution. The biggest challenge that we've continued to face is that members of Parliament continue to have very different parameters in which their duties are executed, whereas the public expects them to do different things at the national level, and from the legal front, there are different roles that they are supposed to do. In our legal perspective, really, and what these members of Parliament are supposed to do is they are charged with the mandate of ensuring that they represent our views to the executive for them to implement, which is one of their core mandate. And we must continue to demand that they must represent our views. Fair enough, we are heading towards the electoral cycle, where we'll have yet another opportunity, and which is the only opportunity for the citizens to take action against leaders that are not responsive to their needs, or they are not representing them well. The second role is around appropriation, really, is to ensure that resources that are collected, that are borrowed, any resources that belong to the people of Uganda are fairly distributed, are fairly executed, and there is a clear value for money, and these resources serve the purpose of which they are given to those that are given. The other is around legislative role, which we've emphasized in the show, where they're supposed and they're charged to ensure that they pass the laws. And these laws must be a true representative of the people. We are currently, and in this show we've discussed tax laws. And it's true they are currently being considered by Parliament, and we hope and trust that Parliament will have the views of the people, the desires of the traders, the desires of those that are interested, taken the views are taken in as required. And then the last role is around ensuring that oversight, the question of money is being disbursed, value for money, to ensure that the executive executes their mandate as required. Parliament gives them money, and Parliament is charged with the mandate of ensuring that those resources serve the purpose for which they are given, for which they are meant to do. And so I think that we have, as an electorate, a mandate to ensure that we hold this leadership accountable. Unfortunately, the thing that also I would urge the public, and continuously so, is that let's not hand over our powers to these politicians. If they buy us during the electoral cycle, it becomes a game of purchase. And so we fail and we hand over our mandate to them. And so we must ensure that we bring on board leaders that are credible, leaders that can represent us, leaders can stand for this country in the electoral cycle. And really those are some of the things those are the lines that we must keep pushing our leaders to be responsive, not on these other mandate where we expect them, to pay school fees, to contribute to burials and that can buy sugar, which may be important, and if they do so, it should be at their discretion, not as a mandate. I want to thank you, Isaac. I want to thank colleagues, and wish you the very best. See you then.
Thank you, Timothy, for your views. Once again, let me express my deep appreciation to you, my panelists, Timothy, Winfred, and Mr. Apollo, for your able participation and patriotic guidance on this program. To our esteemed viewers, we thank you for keeping us company from the start up to the conclusion of this show. This is the Focus on Parliament show on Civic Space TV, brought to you by the Center for Constitutional Governance. Please engage us on our various social media platforms. We are on X, we are on Facebook. Subscribe and watch this program on our YouTube channel. We want to appreciate our production unit for keeping us live on air. We'll see you next time. Be blessed.